Claire Tansey, food editor at Chatelaine magazine. Today I'm going to show you the easiest way to make shortbread cookies. I use my food processor. This is what makes it so easy. You just pulse everything in the food processor and then all you have to do is cook it. So if you don't have a food processor, this can be done by hand. It just takes a little bit longer. Now with all baking, it's really important to measure your flour sort of in the correct way. You take your measuring cup and you spoon flour into it. This is instead of scooping the flour out of the tin or pouring it right out of the bag. And if I tapped it on the counter or dumped it in from the bag, I would end up adding extra flour to the recipe, which can make cookies dry or tough. And then another interesting ingredient in this recipe is rice flour, not very much. And it's one of the things that makes these shortbreads so wonderfully crumbly and crispy. So that goes in with the all-purpose flour. And as well, the sweetness is icing sugar. So that's again very soft, going to be very crumbly and very nice in terms of its texture. With the rice flour and the icing sugar, I measure it in the same way as I do the flour. So spooning it in and then swooping it off. Salt goes in there as well. And then I'm going to blitz together the dry ingredients. So step one is done. Now comes the butter. Shortbread is notorious for being very, very buttery. And I like to use unsalted butter, and it has to be really cold and cut into little cubes. So now I'm just going to pulse this until it starts to form big crumbs. So this is looking like big clumps. That means it is perfect. Now I know it doesn't look anything like cookies, but that is all right. I'm going to put this entire batch of shortbread cookies into one big pan. So I'm going to use a 9x13 pan. And I'm lining it with a bit of parchment paper with overhang so that when they're cooked, I'll be able to lift them out. Now from here, I'm going to just pat it out into one big square. Now it looks pretty uneven right now, so I'll show you one of the tricks that we use here in the Chatelaine kitchen. That same measuring cup I used on the flour, I'm just going to use to smooth out the top so that it's nice and uniform and flat. Just press it down with that. So now it's all nice and smooth. And just to make sure that it bakes really evenly, I'm going to prick it all over with a fork. I'm actually going to cut it into cookies before I bake it. So using a little sharp knife, I'm going to cut this into 24 even squares. They're still all going to bake in one big same pan, all right next to each other. But because I'm scoring the cookies first, it'll be really easy to break them apart once they come out of the oven. And that's it. It's ready to go. Cookies in 5 minutes or less. And just to prove how versatile this recipe is, we've also got a number of different variations. You can make a lemon version, you can add Toblerone pieces or score pieces, or you can make a chocolate shortbread. I'm not even going to clean out the food processor. All the same ingredients go in, but I'm going to add some cocoa. So that's ready to go. I'm going to put them both in the oven, 300 degrees for about 30 to 35 minutes. So these pans have been baking for about 30 minutes. It's a little harder to tell on the chocolate variation, but you can see on the plain variation that it's beautifully golden right across the top. So I'm just going to score these one more time along those same lines that I cut them before they went into the oven. And now I can lift the entire pan's worth right out and onto the counter. And you can see how these cookies are beautiful and crumbly, and they were so easy. I'm going to dress these chocolate ones up with a little drizzle of melted chocolate, but the plain ones are just perfect the way they are. The easiest shortbread in the world.